One calm sentence ends the cycle because it refuses to argue with someone's pattern. It refuses to chase. It refuses to beg. It refuses to audition for basic respect. And if you have been stuck with an avoidant, you already know the cycle. You speak, they retreat. You explain, they disappear. You ask for clarity, they call it pressure. You share feelings, they shut down. Then you start working overtime to repair what you didn't even break, just so the connection doesn't die. So the calm sentence is not about being clever, it's about being clear. It sounds like this: I care about you, but I can't stay in a relationship where I feel alone. I'm choosing myself now, and I'm not available for this pattern anymore. That sentence is the end of the loop because it doesn't invite debate. It doesn't accuse them. It doesn't diagnose them. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't beg for a response. It simply names your experience and draws a boundary. You're not asking them to understand. You're telling them what you will do with your life. And that is why it hits so hard, because most people try to leave with emotion. They leave with a long explanation, a list of reasons, a final attempt to be understood. But when you have been dealing with someone avoidant, your explanations become fuel for the escape. They will focus on one word you said wrong. They will fixate on your tone. They will twist the conversation into, "You're too much. You're being dramatic. You're overthinking." And suddenly you're not talking about your pain anymore. You're defending your humanity. A calm sentence avoids all of that. It doesn't hand them your nervous system. It doesn't hand them more material. It doesn't keep you in the ring. It's the difference between trying to win their understanding and choosing your self-respect. And I need you to see what you're really doing when you keep talking. You're trying to make them feel what you feel, so they finally change. You're trying to make them see what you see, so they finally stay. You're trying to make them admit what they did, so you finally get closure. But closure is not something you receive from someone who avoids emotional accountability. Closure is something you claim when you stop requiring their participation for your peace. That's what the calm sentence does. It claims your peace. Now, this part is important. The power is not in the words alone. It's in your energy when you say them. Calm does not mean you're not breaking inside. Calm means you are no longer negotiating your worth. Calm means you are done performing pain for someone who kept ignoring it. Calm means you are choosing to be a safe place for yourself, even if they never were. So before you speak, you breathe. You let the shaking settle. You plant your feet. You remember the nights you cried quietly. You remember the mornings you woke up anxious. You remember how many times you tried to be easy, to be understanding, to be low maintenance, just so they wouldn't run. You remember how many times you accepted crumbs and called it love because you were afraid that asking for more would make them disappear. And then you speak one sentence, not as a performance, as a boundary. I care about you, but I can't stay in a relationship where I feel alone. I'm choosing myself now, and I'm not available for this pattern anymore. Notice what it does. It tells the truth without pleading. It also removes your availability without hatred. It's not a punishment. It's a decision. It doesn't say, "You ruined me." It doesn't say, "You're the problem." It says, "This is what I experience with you, and I'm not doing it anymore." That is emotional maturity. And the reason it can make an avoidant obsess is not because you tried to provoke them. It's because you did something they are not used to. You ended the cycle without chaos. Avoidants are used to the push and pull. They're used to the intensity. They're used to you chasing, or you exploding, or you pleading. They're used to having time. They're used to you reopening the door. They're used to your love being available even after they withdraw. So when you say one calm sentence and you stop, they can't file you under drama. They can't dismiss you the same way. They can't argue with you because you didn't hand them an argument. You didn't insult them. You didn't shame them. You didn't try to control them. You simply became unavailable to the pattern. And an avoidance nervous system hates that because the old strategy no longer works. Silence can't punish you if you're already gone. Distance can't control you if you're not chasing. Mixed signals can't hook you if you're no longer hoping. The calm sentence cuts the rope. But hear me, you must not use this sentence like a trick. You don't say it to get a reaction. You don't say it to make them beg. You don't say it to win. Because if your goal is to make them panic, you're still attached to their response. That's still the cycle, just dressed up as power. Real power is when you mean it, even if they don't react. Real power is when you mean it, even if they do react. Real power is when you mean it, even if they suddenly say everything you wanted to hear. Because avoidants often become tender when they sense they're losing you. But tenderness during panic is not the same as consistent change. The calm sentence is not a doorway back into more conversations. It's the line that protects your future. So if they respond with excuses, you don't debate. If they respond with guilt, you don't defend. If they respond with sudden affection, you don't melt and forget the pattern. You stay calm because calm is not numbness. Calm is clarity. You can be sad and still be clear. You can miss them and still be clear. You can love them and still be clear. And here's what will happen inside you when you finally use one calm sentence. You will feel grief, because you're letting go of the hope that words can fix what behavior keeps breaking. You will feel fear, because you're stepping into the unknown. You might feel guilt, because you care deeply, but you will also feel something you haven't felt in a long time: relief. Because you're no longer trapped in the exhausting job of convincing someone to treat you well. One calm sentence ends the cycle because it turns your love back into self-respect, and it turns your voice into a boundary that doesn't need to be argued with, only honored, only lived, only kept. The line that lingers is the one that removes your availability because it changes the rules of the entire dynamic. It doesn't try to convince them. It doesn't try to control them. It doesn't try to punish them. It simply ends your participation. And for an avoidant, that is what their mind cannot stop circling, because they are used to managing closeness by controlling distance. They are used to pulling back and watching you move forward. They are used to silence becoming your panic, and your panic becoming their proof that they still matter. So when you speak a sentence that removes your availability, you remove the leverage. And the sentence sounds like this: I care about you, but I'm no longer available for inconsistency. If you ever become ready to show up with real communication and steady effort, you can reach out. But I'm done living in this pattern. Do you feel the difference? It doesn't attack their character. It doesn't diagnose them. It doesn't demand they change. It doesn't beg them to choose you. It simply defines the terms of access to you, and then it takes your energy back. That is why it lingers. Because avoidance can dismiss anger. They can label it drama. They can dismiss tears. They can call it neediness. They can dismiss long explanations. They can twist them. But they can't dismiss your absence when you meant it. They can't debate your availability when you removed it. They can't control your peace when you stop giving it to them. And if you've been in this dance, you already know how much of it was powered by your availability. Your willingness to respond. Your willingness to explain. Your willingness to forgive quickly. Your willingness to hold space for their confusion. Your willingness to be the understanding one even when you were breaking inside. You made it easy for them to believe you would always be there, because even after distance, you returned. Even after silence, you reached out. Even after disappointment, you gave another chance. That's not weakness. That's love. But love without boundaries becomes a guarantee, and guarantees get taken for granted. So the line that lingers is the one that says, "This is no longer guaranteed." It tells them, without shouting, that the door is closed to the old version of you. The version of you that stays in limbo. The version of you that accepts half love. The version of you that keeps hoping words will turn into action. The version of you that keeps offering access even when the behavior isn't safe. And the reason it becomes obsessive in their mind is because it triggers the one thing they can't regulate easily: consequence. Because as long as you're available, they can calm themselves with distance. They can take space. They can disappear. They can come back when it suits them. They can reset the emotional intensity and still keep the relationship alive. Your availability makes that possible. When you remove your availability, their coping strategy stops working. They can't push you away and expect you to return. They can't go cold and expect you to warm it back up. They can't give you crumbs and expect you to turn them into a meal. They can't keep you on standby. And that is why it lingers, because the mind of an avoidant replays what it cannot control. They replay the sentence, not because you were cruel, but because you were clear. And clarity is like a spotlight. It shows them the pattern they've been hiding from. Now listen, removing availability is not you becoming heartless. It's you becoming honest. It's you finally saying, "My love has standards." It's you finally saying, "My presence must be earned through respect." It's you finally saying, "I'm not staying in something that keeps injuring me." And this is where you may feel guilt, because you might worry you're abandoning them. You might worry you're being unfair. You might worry you're closing the door on someone who is scared. But your boundary is not abandonment. It's self-protection. You are not required to stay available to someone who repeatedly makes you feel unsafe in love. Their fear is real, but your pain is real too. And a relationship cannot be built on one person's pain being the price of the other person's comfort. So when you say the sentence, you are not asking them to understand you in that moment. You are telling them the truth of your life. You are telling them what access to you requires. And if they cannot meet it, then the relationship does not continue because you are no longer the one who carries it. And yes, they might respond with panic. They might promise. They might cry. They might suddenly become affectionate. They might suddenly say everything you wanted to hear. But here is the crucial part. You are not measuring readiness by words anymore. You are measuring it by behavior. Because anyone can show intensity when they feel they are losing you. Not everyone can show consistency when they have you. So you remove availability to the pattern, not to love. You remove availability to confusion, not to healthy connection. You remove availability to disrespect, not to repair. That is why the sentence is so clean. It is not, "I hate you." It is, "I'm done with this dynamic." And then the hardest part, you follow through. You don't keep checking their social media. You don't keep reopening conversations. You don't keep giving emotional access through little messages. You don't keep just seeing how they are. Because if you say you are unavailable, and then you keep showing up, the sentence loses its power, and the pattern wins again. But when you mean it, when your actions match your words, something changes in you. Your nervous system starts calming down. Your mind stops racing. Your heart starts grieving, yes, but it also starts healing, because it finally has a boundary to hold on to. And your life begins to expand, because you are no longer waiting for someone else's readiness to decide your happiness. So the line that lingers is not a magical phrase. It is the moment you stop negotiating your worth. It is the moment you take your availability back and put it where it belongs, in your own life, your own healing, your own peace. And that is what they will obsess over. Not the words, the reality. That you were once always reachable, and now you are not. And the only way to reach you again is through real change. Not temporary comfort, not panic, not promises, but consistent love, the kind you should have been given from the start. Leaving the door open only for real change, not temporary comfort, is one of the most loving and most dangerous things you can do if you don't understand what it actually means. Because a lot of people say, "I'm done," but their heart is secretly praying, "Please fight for me." A lot of people walk away, but they leave the door wide open for the same pattern to walk right back in, just wearing a different outfit. So listen to me. When you walk away from an avoidant, the goal is not to slam the door out of anger, and it's not to leave it open out of hope. The goal is to set a door with a lock, and the key is consistency. That's what it means to leave the door open only for real change. It means you stop accepting temporary comfort as proof of permanent growth. Because avoidants can be incredibly tender when they feel loss. They can be unbelievably sweet when they feel you slipping away. They can say the most beautiful words when their nervous system is panicking. Because panic creates urgency. Panic creates intensity. Panic creates promises. And if you've been starving emotionally, those promises feel like water in the desert. You want to believe them. You want to melt. You want to say, "Okay, one more chance." But you have to remember the pattern. Intensity is easy when you're leaving. Consistency is hard when you're staying. So leaving the door open only for real change means you don't get pulled back by emotion. You get guided by evidence. Evidence looks like behavior that continues after the fear fades. Evidence looks like effort that shows up on ordinary days, not just on dramatic nights. Evidence looks like accountability that doesn't require you to beg for it. And you need to know what real change looks like, because if you don't define it, you will confuse words for growth again. Real change sounds like, "I know exactly what I did, and I'm not blaming you for how you reacted." Real change sounds like, "I disappear when I feel close to you, and that is not fair to you." Real change sounds like, "I'm getting help, I'm learning tools, I'm committed to communication, and I'm willing to rebuild trust on your timeline." Real change includes specifics, not just feelings. Temporary comfort sounds like, "I miss you, I can't live without you, I was just stressed. You know I care. Can we just start over? Why are you doing this to me?" Temporary comfort is designed to reopen access, not rebuild safety. So here is how you keep the door open only for real change. You make your boundary clear, and you make it non-negotiable. You say something like, "I'm not closing the door forever, but I am closing it to inconsistency." If you want to rebuild, it has to be with steady communication, accountability, and real effort over time. Notice what that does. It removes the romantic fog. It removes the fantasy that love is enough. It brings everything down to reality. Can you show up consistently in a way that protects my heart? Because your heart is not a place for someone to visit when they feel lonely. Your heart is not a hotel. Your heart is not a comfort zone for someone who refuses the responsibility of closeness. Your heart is a home, and homes require respect. So you leave the door open, but not to the old version of them, and not to the old version of you. Not to the version of you that accepts apology without change. Not to the version of you that forgives so quickly you never get to see if the behavior actually shifts. Not to the version of you that confuses longing with readiness. This is where you have to be strong, because the moment you set a door with conditions, they may test it. They may try to rush you. They may try to pull you back with emotion. They may try to make you feel guilty, so you're just going to throw everything away, You're being cold. You don't care. You're punishing me. And you have to stay grounded, because guilt is one of the fastest ways people reopen doors they meant to close. You are not punishing them. You are protecting yourself. You are not being cold. You are being clear. You are not throwing love away. You are refusing to keep bleeding for it. Leaving the door open only for real change also means you don't negotiate your boundaries in real time. You don't have a back and forth conversation where they promise, and you soften, and then you're back in the cycle by tomorrow. You give space for time to reveal truth. Because time is the test that temporary comfort cannot pass. Anyone can act perfect for 3 days. Anyone can be consistent for 1 week. Anyone can say the right words when they feel you leaving. But real change shows up over months, in boring moments, in stressful moments, in conflict, in misunderstanding, in inconvenience. Real change shows up when there is no prize, no chase, no dramatic getting you back. Real change shows up when they already have access, and they still treat that access with care. So the door stays open in theory, but closed in practice until the behavior earns trust. That might mean you don't meet privately. That might mean you don't jump back into intimacy. That might mean you don't return to daily contact. That might mean you watch calmly whether they respect your boundary without pushing it. Because a person who is truly changing will not try to bargain with your safety. They will not rush your healing. They will not demand instant closeness. They will not treat your caution as rejection. They will understand that trust is rebuilt with patience. And here is the part that will hit you deep. Leaving the door open only for real change means you accept the possibility that they may never change. You accept that the door may remain closed, not because you are cruel, but because you are finally honest about what love requires. Because love without emotional safety is not love you can live inside. Love without consistency is a constant wound. Love that makes you anxious is not love that holds you. So you stop letting their desire decide your future, and you start letting your standards decide it. You decide, if you want to return, it has to be different. It has to be real. It has to be safe. And you hold that line, even when your heart trembles, even when you miss them, even when they come back with tears, even when they say everything you always wanted to hear. Because the door is not opened by words. The door is opened by sustained change, accountability, and the kind of effort that doesn't vanish the moment the fear disappears. Walk away like you mean it, because the power isn't the words, it's that your actions match them. And if you have ever dealt with an avoidant, you already know this painful truth. They don't respond to speeches, they respond to consequences. They don't change because you explained your pain perfectly. They change, if they change at all, because the pattern finally stops working. That's why your follow-through matters more than your line. Because you can say the most powerful sentence in the world, and if you go back the next day, you taught them a new lesson. Your words are emotional, but your boundaries are flexible. You taught them that if they wait long enough, if they stay quiet long enough, if they get sweet enough for one moment, you will return. You taught them that your pain is real, but not costly. And when pain has no cost, the behavior doesn't change. So when you walk away, you have to walk away like you mean it. Not with drama, not with threats, not with begging, not with a speech that secretly asks them to chase you. You walk away with dignity. You walk away with clarity. You walk away with the kind of quiet that tells the truth. And the truth is, you are no longer available for the version of love that keeps breaking you. Now, I know what your heart does in these moments. Your heart wants to soften the goodbye. Your heart wants to make sure they don't hate you. Your heart wants to make sure they understand. Your heart wants to leave the door open so wide that you can run back through it if you get lonely. Your heart wants to keep a thread, a little message, a little like, a little checking in, because you're afraid that ending it fully will hurt too much. But hear me, that thread is the chain. That thread keeps you attached. That thread keeps your nervous system waiting. That thread keeps the cycle alive. So walking away like you mean, it means you cut the thread, not because you're cruel, but because you're serious about healing. It means you don't send the follow-up text after the boundary, the one that says, "I hope you're okay." It means you don't check their social media just to see. It means you don't keep rereading old messages until your chest tightens. It means you don't ask mutual friends for updates. It means you stop feeding your brain the same triggers that keep you emotionally stuck, because your brain is going to look for them like a habit. Your body is going to crave the familiar pattern like an addiction. The push and pull becomes chemistry in your system, and when you remove it, you will feel withdrawal. You will feel tempted to reach out, not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. And this is where you prove to yourself that your words were real. You hold the line. You breathe through the urge. You cry if you need to cry, but you do not crawl back. You miss them, but you do not message. You feel lonely, but you do not reopen the door to the same pain. Because walking away like you mean, it is not about pretending you don't feel. It is about refusing to act from the wound. Now, let's talk about what an avoidant expects. They expect you to break. They expect you to return. They expect your emotions to pull you back into the conversation. They expect you to bargain. They expect you to become softer the moment they become colder. They expect your love to do the work their fear refuses to do. So the most powerful thing you can do is become consistent. Consistent silence, consistent boundaries, consistent self-respect. Not as punishment, as protection. Because consistency is what they struggle with. Consistency is what you were begging for. Consistency is what they refuse to give. So when you become consistent in your boundary, you become the mirror. You show them what steadiness actually looks like. And this is what creates that obsession people talk about. Not because you played a game, but because you ended one. You stepped out of the dance. You removed your energy. You stopped being available to be pushed away and pulled back. And when you stop being available, their usual coping strategy fails. Their silence doesn't control you. Their distance doesn't bring you chasing. Their half-effort doesn't keep you hopeful. So they are left with one thing, the consequence. But I want you to be careful here, because this is not about making them obsess. This is about saving your life, emotionally. This is about stopping the slow bleed. This is about reclaiming your dignity. If they obsess, that is their nervous system dealing with the loss of access. Your job is not to manage their feelings. Your job is to protect your peace. So how do you walk away like you mean it? You decide what mean it looks like. It means your boundary is specific. It means you don't keep the door open for temporary comfort. It means you don't accept late-night apologies that vanish by morning. It means you don't accept words without consistent action. It means you don't meet them privately if you know you'll fall back into intimacy too fast. It means you don't allow the conversation to become a negotiation where they promise and you soften and the cycle restarts. It also means you create a life that supports your boundary. You fill the space with new routines. You move your body. You go outside. You eat properly even when you don't feel like it. You sleep. You call a friend. You journal. You pray. You work. You build. You do anything that reminds your nervous system that you are safe without them. Because walking away like you mean, it is not just leaving them. It's returning to you. It's rebuilding the version of you that got lost in chasing. It's remembering the version of you that didn't need to beg for consistency. It's meeting your own needs the way you wish they had. And one day, you will realize the power was never the sentence you said. The power was that you honored it. You honored yourself. You did not backtrack. You did not apologize for your boundary. You did not collapse into old habits. You walked away like you meant it. And because you meant it, your life started opening up. You started breathing again. You started sleeping again. You started feeling your energy return. And that is the real obsession. Not theirs, yours. Your devotion to your own healing. Your commitment to your own peace. Your decision to never again abandon yourself for someone who wouldn't show up consistently. That is what it means to walk away like you mean it. Your words and your actions finally match, and the moment they match, you become unstoppable.